welcome to this edition of Flap TV, where the area's largest Facebook group dedicated to politics, Fitchburg Leominster All Politics, jumps from your computer screen to your television screen. Our guests for this episode, on the left, State Senator Jen Flanagan, and on the right, Leominster resident and Flap member Nunzio Nano. Issue 1. On July 10th, the Leominster City Council voted 9-0 for a resolution calling upon the mayor to ask the Department of Revenue to review the city's finances. Proponents of a DOR review say that the review is free, the findings are non-binding, and it could help stop some redundancies in city government, which could save the city money. The mayor has been steadfastly opposed to a DOR review, saying that such reviews are meant for cities and towns facing financial crisis, and Leominster is on solid financial footing. And the review really isn't free, when many city resources and clerical workers would need to be freed up to help the DOR perform this review. And he also states that the city has an independent audit every year, and it is not needed. But in the face of a 9-0 city council vote, as well as calls by school committee members and a lot of citizens for this DOR review, should the mayor stand his ground, or should he acquiesce and ask for the review? Cindy.
Well, I personally think that he should stand his ground. They should be looking at the school superintendent. He's in the shadows right now, and we're not really hearing from him. There's been a lot of money that was given to them. The money was increased from 1.3 million up to 2.5 million, and they're still not able to do it within their budget. Leominster, the city is in great financial shape. It's the school department that needs to be reviewed.
Senator Flanagan.
I think it's difficult. I think what we're seeing right now is that there's a lot of anxiousness going on in the city of Leominster. We've never seen a deficit in the school department like we have right now, and that if it's not going to hurt, if it's going to help more than it's going to hurt, I don't see why we don't do it. But I can understand the resources that would be taken away from city government. That being said, I agree. I think the school department needs to have a top-to-bottom review. I think we need to look at the votes that have been taken over the years with regards to the school department and look at where all this money is going. It's difficult in such a heated environment because everyone's getting really emotional and anxious, but it's time to take a step back and take a look at the numbers.
Nunzio.
Yeah, you know, Mayor Mazzarella has explained himself in this position 9 ways from Sunday. He's gone on social media. He's posted all the questions that they're throwing at him. He's answered all the questions diligently. He's thrown facts and figures out. The kids from the high school came down and marched on the city hall. He didn't duck under the desk or sneak out the back door. He went out and addressed the issues. He answered the questions for the kids. He doesn't appear to be a kind of a guy that's trying to hide something, to me. I think he's been wide open. I think if people are looking to find transparency, they need to go to the school committee, to the Board of Education, and to the superintendent's office. And they need to look for a line item budget. Where are you spending this money? How are you allocating these funds? How did this get mismanaged? You see, so I agree with Jen. City of Leominster is doing great. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the DOR review would take the whole city into consideration, not just pinpoint where the problem is.
Right.
The problem seems to have started in the school department. This whole issue emanated from that. So they're the ones that need accountability, the superintendent and the school committee.
Michael.
Well, Nunzio, you bring up a good point, but related to that, I remember back in 2009-ish, I want to say,
Right.
Mayor Wong was just elected mayor of Fitchburg. And she shut off 60-something% of the streetlights in the
lights,
city.
yeah.
Okay, and I wrote to her. I said, what is the basis of this? And she cited me facts and figures and statistics that say, look, we need to make cuts. We need to save money. Logically, this makes sense. This is why crime won't go up. This is that. This is that. And I wrote back to her. I said, sometimes it's not the facts and figures. Sometimes it's the perception. Mm-hmm. And the problem the mayor has with this is that it's a bad look. It is a bad perception that you have city councilors, 9-0, this wasn't a 5-4 vote, the resolution, 9-0 vote. City councilors who don't agree on much, wide variety of political opinions and allegiances towards the mayor, 9-0 city council vote. It's not a good look for him to continue to refuse. Based on that, I have to endorse the city council resolution because sometimes it's not about facts and figures and features and benefits. Sometimes it's based on perception and emotion that drives these issues. And I think that's something that needs to get resolved.
But I think too, though, is that it's time to put our city back together. We talk about community. We talk about we live there, our community, our kids. I have no biological children in the school, but I would pay whatever I had to get these kids educated. They're going to be running our city someday. They're our future. And I think you're right. If 9 counselors are asking and multiple residents are asking, I'm getting calls. How do we get the DOR review? How can we do this? It's really time for, I think, all of our leaders to come together and stop taking their stands in their different corners and put us back together. And the perception is one thing. If there's a way to get the DRR review, and then also take a look at the school department. You're absolutely right. The school is where the problems are right now. The funding is in the schools.
Right.
I would hope the teachers would work with the superintendent when it comes down to contracts and it comes down to negotiations to say we either have the money or we don't have the money. From the state level, we have to work within our means all the time. Nobody wants to raise taxes. So when we have to make cuts, and how difficult those cuts are, we know that on the other side of it, people don't want to pay more. So I think it's time that we take some action and come together.
And Nunzio and Cindy, you both think the mayor should stand his ground and not ask for the DOR review. When I look at the outline of a DOR review and its purpose, what it reminds me of is National Grid or Unitil offering to come out to your house and give you a assessment of your home for free and give you recommendations on how you can become more energy efficient and save money. If it's non-binding, what's wrong with it? Why would you be opposed?
Addressing the perception issue, I guess on the face of it, why would you want to do that just to allay the perception fee? I understand that. I don't know that DOR would go directly to the problem. The issue is the school department, yes? The DOR goes to, if they come in, an outside agency, they're not going to go into a line item budget, or they're going to look at the whole city at large, broad brush, correct?
But I think it would give people a better understanding of how the city operates. I think right now there's a confusion about the city money and the school money is all the same money. And so I think it would be helpful, because you have a community of people who are paying attention to what's going on, and maybe some education could be had.
But we're not even looking at, I mean, they can request a review by the Department of Education. And nobody's even suggesting that. So why aren't people going to them saying, let's have a review of the school, the entire budget? How did it get there? The rest of the city's functioning fine. All the bills are getting paid. We got an excellent bond rating. Dino's done a great job for the city, but the school's struggling. So you're going to go after the whole city. You're going to use up resources. I've been through audits. They are time consuming. Right. This isn't an easy process. And for what? At the end, they're not even really going to be looking at the school budget. They're going to look at the overall budget. They need to focus on the school. They should be going to the Department of Education saying, we want a review of the school.
That's my point. Good.
It's not an audit, it's an assessment. And there is a distinction there. And because the analogy was done, well, it's like an IRS audit. Well, no, it isn't. It's a non-binding DOR review. And people could say, well, whatever that leads to, there could lead to, people who are pessimistic could say, well, it could lead to this, that, or the other thing. And I just think that, I don't think I'm that. I don't think I'm that paranoid to think that it would lead to something to that effect. I mean, these are established review procedures. Winchendon's had it done. Fitchburg's had it done. No adverse effects. Okay? So sometimes you have to satisfy people's perception. You know what? Even if it gives you a little bit of campaign fodder for your opponents, even if it gives people a little bit of ammunition, you know what? There's something to be said for saying, look, will of the people, will of the city councilors, 9 city councilors who don't agree on much, agree on this. Well, you know what? There's something to be said for, this is my olive branch. This is the way I'm going to work with.
I just don't think it's going to accomplish what they think it will.
Fitchburg did have a DOR review, and Mayor Wong really took that city from the brink of receivership and put it on solid financial ground. And I think she's going to go down as one of the heroes of Fitchburg when all is said and done. whether there's a direct correlation between a DOR review and recommendations that were made and decisions that Mayor Wong made to put the city back on track, I don't know. On the other side of it, I think all of you are correct in that you really cannot divorce the DOR issue from the school spending issue right now. The two are interrelated. And if it becomes an issue of priorities, then pushing for this DOR review and putting the city's resources into a DOR review, to me, is like calling the fire department and sending them over to your neighbor's house that are having toasting marshmallows in their legal fire pit while you have an arsonist running around setting buildings on fire, right? The priority should be the school department.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes.
Issue 2, the state Senate recently passed a hands-free driving bill which will make it a crime to hold your cell phone near your head or on your lap while driving. You also would not be able to talk or text without the use of a wireless Bluetooth. It explicitly bans the use of social media and video calling systems while driving. It would prohibit drivers from using their fingers to type addresses into GPS and mapping apps. The first offense would be $100. The second offense would be $250. Third offense will cost you $500 with the possibility of an insurance surcharge. The bill now goes to the House for consideration. Senator Flanagan, your thoughts?
We have this discussion all the time in Boston about what distracted driving is. We have certainly the law where the teens aren't supposed to have kids in the car for the first 6 months. Why? Because the distraction is the conversation. So we've been back and forth with this issue for quite some time. And while I agree with parts of the bill, I don't agree with all of the bill, but I think the public safety merits warranted the passage of this legislation. I travel back and forth to Boston multiple times a week, and I can't tell you the number of people that are in the passing lane who are slowly going along, sitting there on their phone with both hands on the phone and their knee probably steering them in the steering wheel. You've got people that are video messaging, which I don't even know how that works when you're moving in a car. I think there's a public safety component to this. I don't want to be Big Brother. I don't think the state should be a nanny state, but I think when it comes down to protecting our drivers, even I've been rear-ended and back in Concord, and the first thing I said to the cop was he texting? Sunny day, blue skies, roads were clear. We were at the Concord Rotary, which if anyone drives the Concord Rotary, you don't go that fast. And this guy managed to hit the back of my car and do some significant damage. So I think there are some merits to the bill. When we say it's a crime, I think civil fines are very different than if we're putting you in jail for your actions. Sometimes when you hit people in their pocketbooks, they pay a little bit more attention because they don't want the surcharge or they don't want to pay a fine. And so I think it's a balance between public safety and people being able to do what they want in their cars.
Nunzio.
For the large part, I agree with the senator on this. On the one hand, you've got it's government overreach as far as I can see that. I'm not for a nanny state either. I think it boils down to personal responsibility. Everybody that gets behind the wheel of a vehicle bears with that personal responsibility for their safety and the safety of the people around them. Some people can handle that, some people can't. Some people can look at a GPS. I made my living on the road.
Yeah.
It was a godsend. Some people can handle that. Some people can eat a hot dog and drink coffee while they're driving. Others can't. There's a point where you got to say to yourself, you know what, I can't do this. I'm not that kind of a person, so I'm not going to use a GPS, or I'm not going to eat that hot dog on the way to work. I've seen, like the senator here, I've seen people do all kinds of things, from shaving to making up, fixing their hair, reading the map on the steering wheel. It gets really scary out there. But where do you draw the line? What do the police do? How do they enforce that? They peer into the cars? I mean, do you give them a certain kind of a telescope? Oh, this guy was looking at his GPS or something was on his lap. I don't know how they enforce that either. So maybe making it a civil issue rather than a criminal thing is the answer to that. There is very, very much a safety component involved in that. I'm pretty much with the senator on that.
Michael.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about the duplication in laws. I mean, we have a no on your cell phone law already on the books. We have negligent driving. We have driving to endanger. There are numerous things that if a person is misusing a cell phone, whether it be through texting, whether it be through viewing it, whether it be from just head down and driving negligently, there are things that can be charged for. So I have reservation on yet adding something else. Is this a revenue grab? Is this something where we're duplicating efforts? Is this something where we're duplicating laws? I'd also be concerned. I mean, it's not clear to me what the final version of this bill before the governor's desk, would it be something where, like the seatbelt law, where you have to be pulled over for something else first? Or is it something where if you have your cell phone in your lap, just that alone, you can be pulled over? That goes way too far.
You bet.
Okay, so I would be extremely cautious before throwing yet another law in the books that would duplicate other laws.
I'm guessing now it goes to the House, Senator, and
It
then if
does.
they pass something, it goes to conference committee, and then there'll be differences worked out?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the process with any piece of legislation. I mean, certainly they can come up with their own and we can try to merge both of them. But the fact that it passed the Senate, it'll move to the House and they'll decide when and if they take up the legislation.
So this is not carved in stone, it's something that
Not
you
even
can-
close.
You can negotiate.
The House still has to, the House would have to negotiate their version of the bill, which
Okay.
means that there could be multiple changes. And then if it's very different from the Senate, or if there's any differences at all, a conference committee of 6 people, 3 from each side, with 1 Republican on each side and 2 Democrats, they'll go in and hash out the details. And
Kind of where
before
we
it
are,
goes to the
kind of where we
Senate.
are with the marijuana legislation.
It's in
Let's
conference.
prioritize the marijuana.
It's in
Yeah,
conference.
exactly.
Marijuana will bring in more revenue than this, so
I am
let's
not
focus
on
on
that
the
conference
marijuana.
committee.
Follow the money, right?
Very
I'm
good.
glad,
We
I'm
need
glad
to
you're
take-
my
All
senator.
right, we need to take a break. We're going to be back in 1 minute. Stay with us. Issue 3. On June 26, the United States Supreme Court announced that they will hear a case of a Colorado bakery owner who refused to bake a cake for a gay wedding. Can you imagine? The case will pit religious beliefs of small business owners against the civil rights of gay Americans. The court will hear this case this fall. Nunzio, my paisan, you were on the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
Where do you come down on this?
well, this is a bifold issue with me, I think. I'm not so sure this is something that should go before the Supreme Court to begin with. I think, I don't think government, I don't think it's their place to dictate how a small business should run their affairs. I think if they want to, for whatever reason, conduct their business where they don't serve a certain type of person that they don't like or whatever, that's their prerogative. They lose the sale, and it's the prerogative of the customer to turn around and walk out the door and go someplace where they will accommodate the request. If I went to a Jewish bakery, for example, and said, I want you to bake me a nice fancy cake commemorating the resurrection of Jesus, and they said to me, well, no, I'm sorry, we don't believe in the deity of Jesus, we're not going to do that for you. I'm not going to accommodate that request, we don't want to do it. Fine. You lose the sale, I turn around, I go get the cake someplace else. Having said that, I totally disagree with the baker, and I totally disagree with his logic and his reasoning behind that. Just as he has the right to run the business the way he wants and conduct his personal affairs, so does the gay couple. As long as they're not harming or hurting anybody or breaking any laws, I'm totally against it. And I, for one, if that was a local business in town, I wouldn't patronize them. I think it's wrong on the face of it, what they're doing.
Michael.
Well, I hate these Trojan horse issues, where I hate these where a certain group of people in a state try to do something, and advocate for something, and they have a pretext for it, and in this case the pretext is religious freedom, and then it's something else. Okay, it's really something else, and it's really for legalized discrimination. So that's where I would, if I were a Supreme Court justice, quite honestly, there has to be a limit here. I mean, it's a slippery slope. In your example, I mean, a small business owner, what if they refuse to? Well, we don't make cakes for black people.
Right.
We don't make cakes for Hispanic people. Okay, so there has to be a limit. And I think what you're seeing, and this is a welcome development, is where sexual orientation is becoming a protected class. And I think, and again, getting back to this is some sort of Trojan horse issue, where I think that this is an attempt couched in religious freedom to push back against that, so that sexual orientation does not become a protected class, and so that people can be free to discriminate based on, well, this is my religious freedom or my freedom as a small business owner. So just on principle alone, okay. I said before with regard to the DOR review issue, sometimes perception rules over facts. Well, this perception that I have of this attempt stinks, and I just wouldn't do anything to encourage it.
Cindy?
Well, I think the baker's wrong, first of all. I think that's just foolish to, limit your business like that. You're just losing business, because now every gay couple in town's not going to go to your bakery, and so you just lost business, so that's foolish. Do I think the government needs to get involved and tell you that you can't do that? It's a small business. It's privately owned. I think you should do what you want. You're foolish to do it, but I don't think the government should be stepping in telling you how to run your business.
Senator?
I think there's a separation between church and state. If you're going into a business and you're going to be serving the public, I think at some point you need to identify your religious beliefs, but sort of put them aside, because you are operating a business. I mean, we have businesses here who, for religious reasons, people don't serve alcohol. That's not against the people who drink. That's just, they choose not to serve alcohol in their business, and that's what it is. But to deny someone the product that they're asking for based upon their sexual orientation, to me, is saying, so you're going to pick and choose who you serve. Then why are you in my community? Why do you have a business that's in my community? Because again, it's the same with the first question. We have the sense of community, right? You're a local baker. Everyone's got this buy local mantra going on. Why would you buy local when you have people that are just legally discriminating against others?
But don't you think, he's just going to put himself out of business being that way? It's foolishness.
I don't think necessarily, though.
Maybe
because-
up here, but maybe not down in Alabama or
But I don't
Mississippi
think
or
there's
Kentucky.
always a big uproar when someone says no to a certain class of people. I think in some places, for people who are very politically active, yes, that may happen. But others might say, okay, well, the couple didn't get what they wanted, next stop.
The example that you use where a business doesn't serve alcohol for religious reasons, but it's not if they're serving it to some but not others. They're just not serving it to anyone. They're not discriminating. Now, there's also the argument that can be made from the LGBT community when it comes to these businesses, that if it were not for the roads and bridges that lead to this business, if it were not for the water and sewer lines that hook up to that business, if it were not for the electrical lines and the telephone lines that connect to that business, all funded through the tax dollars of everybody, that business would not be in business. So do they have a right to say, yeah, you cannot discriminate against a certain class of people based on that? I think the Constitution is very clear. The Constitution, in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, says that Congress has the right to regulate commerce with foreign nations and within the states. So from a constitutional issue, it's not a question. The Congress has the authority to regulate commerce. And if we look at the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which was spurred by the 1960 sit-ins at the Woolworth counter in Greensboro, North Carolina, we got rid of segregated lunch counters. Should the government repeal the 1960? If you're going to say the government should not get involved here in protecting LGBT folks from discrimination, should Congress now go back and repeal the 1964 Civil Rights Act and allow companies to refuse to serve black African Americans?
Not at all. I think my interpretation, and I could be wrong, of Congress regulating commerce, I think it's interstate commerce that's talking about. Am I not right? That's the way
It says
not within a community, within a
with
state.
foreign nations and within the several states.
Within the states, yeah. Okay, but
But I think, again, you're going to open up a business that has, again, taxpayer services running to it. Take a long shot, there's probably a small business loan involved, or there's some
Yeah.
sort of incentive to help. And then you're going to turn around and say, well, my religious views prevent me from serving a certain population of people. I just don't see why you would open up the business in the first place. Because you know you're going to run into such conflict. You know that there's going to be,
Right.
and depending on where you're from and the population of people that you're serving, it could be more frequent than others. Depending on what state, what community, what town that you're in. I still think there has to be the separate. Once you start to open up a business, I really think you have to sort of identify your religious beliefs, but put them aside. Because you have people that are going to patronize your business. This happened with the gay marriage vote that I took. You know, I'm Catholic, and people had come to me saying, how can you go against your Catholic religion? Well, because I represent people who aren't Catholic, because I represent all kinds of people. So why do I impose my religious beliefs on the vote that I take for people that I want to represent? I see it as cut and dry. I don't know. I don't see.
So
any
not only
way.
from an ethical and moral point of view, in a business sense, making the business case, smart business case to serve everyone, but you think from a legal perspective, there should be non-discrimination laws in place for serving. So we have a little bit of a disagreement there.
Yeah, we agree to disagree on that one, then, I guess.
Which is the best thing to do.
I think people have a right to be dumb, and if they want to conduct their business in an ignorant manner, fine, then they're going to go out of business. I'm not gay, but if I knew of a bakery or a business doing something like that in my community, I wouldn't frequent them. I wouldn't do
Yeah,
business
I wouldn't
with them.
either. And I would think that would really hurt their business. They're
Nor would
foolish
I go
to
to
do
their
it.
church, for that matter. But
And in the end, of course, having this particular issue with a bakery going to the Supreme Court to being the division, I mean, could be something a little bit more controversial. I mean, who doesn't like cake, right? So we all eat cake together, and it's a good thing, right? Caleb, do you have something for us, right? So sometimes it's good just to all get together and just eat cake, right?
I
So
see this coming.
we have some cake, right?
let them
Because
eat cake.
Who
That's
baked
it.
it? Who
should
baked it?
all- It's a rainbow cake, right? We got a rainbow
wow.
cake. We got our rainbow plates,
Raise the rainbow.
Oh, look
right?
at this, look at this.
We got our pride cake because in the end, right?
Nope,
I
don't
don't
drop
wanna-
the
I don't
pride
wanna-
cake.
I don't want to
It's all-
spill the
notice
cake.
it's
We're
all
not
in front
going
of
to
you,
eat it if it's
right?
on the ground.
It's a rainbow
Hannaford
cake.
supports
Hannaford
gay marriage.
Bakery,
So-
I'm sure. I
That's
hope.
right.
Yeah, eat cake. So we're gonna we'll have Cindy cut the cake while we do the exit question, right? Make sure we get enough. Ann, Glenn, Tim, Dave, all of you, if you're back there watching in the office, come have some cake with us. There you go.
All right.
All right, so let's go to our exit question.
I was thinking maybe it was somebody's birthday or something.
I know. I was.
Oh, exactly.
No, we're just gonna eat cake.
That's
because-
from Hannaford. It's
Cake-
not from a partisan type of a bakery, right?
No,
Okay, then I'll eat it.
we are, in fact, Hannaford is the only supermarket chain in the country to score a perfect 100 rating on the HRC,
Love it.
right? Greatest place for LGBT people to work.
Good.
So there's my shameless shot in there. So we're in the throes of summer now, okay? Very controversial question I'm going to ask you, most controversial one of the day. Who has the best beaches, Coastal Maine or Cape Cod? Mike?
Neither. I sit by my lake. I'm good.
Always have to be different. Cindy?
I would say coastal Maine for sure.
Coastal Maine? Senator?
I like
Myself.
Maine.
You like
I mean,
Maine?
I like the beaches at Cape Cod. Don't get me wrong, but Maine's quiet.
Okay.
My favorite, I
Yeah.
lived in Maine, in Kennebunkport. I spent many summers and falls there. Coastal Maine without question.
I should probably say any beach I can get to.
That's true. That's so true.
Marconi
That's
Beach in
the-
Wellfleet, Head of the Meadow in Truro, Race Point or Herring Cove in P-Town, Coast Guard Beach,
Yeah.
Nauset.
It's so much
You go,
quicker
you
to
go,
get to
you go to
Maine,
any beach on the Cape Cod National Seashore. No arcades, no hotels, no condos, no McMansions. It's just
You
the
just
best,
wait.
best
You
one
just
to go
take
to.
hours to get there.
Yeah.
You can
Once
beat a
you're there,
Maine and
it's
back
fine.
before you
All
get
stuck
I
in-
want is
You're
sand.
stuck at the Board of
I
Bridge for
don't
3
care
hours.
what's around it. I just want the sand. That's all I want. Doesn't
true.
matter to me if there's a hotel or your great grandmother's old house. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Thank you all for joining us. That'll do it for this edition of Flap TV. Join the discussion online, Fitchburg-Leominster, All Politics. Thank you to our guest, Senator Jen Flanagan and Nunzio Nano. Thank you. Now, let's eat cake.